Let's talk about spontaneous mutations. Before we talk about mutations due to radiation, it's important to recognize that for some unknown reason, genes and DNA spontaneously change, and these are naturally occurring changes called spontaneous mutations may be passed from cell to cell and possibly from generation to generation. The consequences of these mutations depends on the genes in which they have changed. Some genes are vital to life, and a mutation in these genes are detrimental to the life of the individual. Other mutations may not be as consequential to the survival of the individual, but result in genetic disorders such as Down syndromes or hydrocephalus, an abnormal buildup of fluid in the brain. The mutation rate is often referred to as the rate of evolution, but strictly speaking, it's the erroneous nucleotides introduced when copying DNA. A wide range of agents can be responsible for increasing the spontaneous mutation rate. These agents are termed mutagens. These factors could include viruses, chemicals, and radiation. Radiation certainly can cause mutations through structural breaks in chromosomes or discrete changes in the order of bases on the DNA chain, as we discussed back in chapter 2. When these mutations occur in germ cells, the possibility exists that the mutations may be transmitted to future generations. The doubling dose is a unit of measurement for determining the effects of radiation on mutation frequency. It is defined as the dose of radiation that doubles spontaneous mutation rate. Radiation only causes an increase in the already existing number of mutations already observed, and not any new types of mutation. The idea that radiation causes mutation goes all the way back to Muller's work with fruit flies in 1927. Muller exposed males and females to various doses of radiation, and then observed both the lethality and the changes in appearance of their offspring. What he found was that mutations were not unique. They were the same type of mutations that might spontaneously rise naturally. There was just more of them. The mutation frequency was linear with respect to dose, at least over the range of doses that he considered. Some of the mutations were recessive. In other words, they may not be exhibited for many generations, and for a recessive mutation to be expressed in an individual, the same mutated gene must be received from both parents, which is usually quite unlikely. There was no low dose threshold, so any amount of radiation could cause a mutation. And they also found that the results were independent of dose rate. However, in the 1960s, Russell and Russell did a genetic study involving thousands of mice that became known as the Mega Mouse study. In contrast to the fruit fly study, they did find a dose rate dependence, and furthermore, when they tried to extrapolate the doubling rate from mice to humans, their estimates were much higher than with the fruit fly study. Also, The Mega Mouse study also found that the doubling rate was different for different types of mutations. The question is, can we extrapolate from fruit flies to humans? Are we oversized mice? The F1 study was a large epidemiological study among the children of the A-bomb survivors that did not show evidence of radiation-induced mutations in humans. Studies involving the children of radiation workers or of radiotherapy patients have also found nothing. The reason for these negative findings may be that each person, with the exception of identical twins, is genetically unique. Therefore, any changes induced by radiation would be diluted in the vast differences between individuals. That said, a recent study in 2021, based on whole genome sequencing of children of parents employed as liquidators in Chernobyl, indicated no transgenerational genetic effects as a result of exposure of the parents to the ionizing radiation. To summarize, the main late effects of radiation in people is an increase in the probability of those people developing cancer at some point in their life. 1 sievert of acute exposure corresponds to a 10% excess chance of getting cancer, while 1 sievert of prolonged exposure corresponds with only a 5% excess chance of getting cancer. The chance of getting cancer has varied over time and geography. In the US right now, it's around 40%, while at the time of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it would have been around 20%. Although Japan's rate of cancer is increasing as they adopt a more Western-style diet. However, the risk of getting cancer from radiation is still much less than many other lifestyle choices. But people's fear of radiation or radiophobia can often lead to patients not wanting to get necessary diagnostic tests or receive life-saving radiotherapies.